Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Ulyain Village and the sword, the axe, and the bow. So, as the player characters are there in Ulyain Village, they will recognize that the Ulyain really don't use much metal at all. There's only a few pieces of metal that they've even seen in the village. One is a cauldron that they use to make soup, but the Ulyain, they don't use any, they don't carry weapons when they're in the village. All they have is, they do have these quarterstaffs, which they use in their work generally, and they also just use to walk around. And also these quarterstaff, which are one of their, one of the weapons that the Ulyain use to help fight the orcs at the very, very beginning. The children will often just grab them and run around and use them as horses and a million different things. Like, it's clear that the people don't really see these things as weapons, right? So one of the player characters may say, well, why do you guys not use tools, right? Why do you not use weapons? That might be the better way to put it, okay? They do use tools. They use wooden tools all the time. And so at that point, when they ask, the villagers will say, tomorrow we will show you, okay? And then the next day, the villagers will take all of the player characters, and this will not be done by Matron Arlel. You will know. So actually, Matron Arlel does not go on this trip, and one of the other villagers takes the PCs out. Okay, they trek through the forest, and at that point, a group of about 10 villagers will go with them. And they'll come to a spot where there are 4 burial mounds, okay? And actually they're places that mark the ground where the burials were, okay? And they'll say, so they'll say, we're going to tell you today the story of why we do not use weapons, okay? And how we use weapons, which is, player characters will be looking, they'll say, here are buried Selk, Viln, Kova, and Dren, okay? Now, Kova, long ago, Ulyain Village was just a simple family stead, okay, where 4 brothers lived. Dren used a sword, and Selk used an axe, and Viln used a bow. Okay? And they'll say, and at that point, as they say each one of these, one of the villagers will step out from the rest of the group, and they'll present one weapon of each, right? And they'll say, these villagers, who the player characters will realize now that these villagers very rarely helped with any of the things with any of the tasks in the village. They were always kind of a little off to the side, right? So they each are holding a sword, an axe, and a bow, okay? And they'll say, now Kova, and then they return to the story. Kova was the one brother who never raised axe, sword, or bow. He always stayed with his father and mother right here in Ulyain. All of his brothers went out to adventure, and all of them died while they adventured. Ulyain, and then Kova, who had remained in Ulyain, he was sent out by his mother and his father to bring back his brothers. But all he could bring back was their sword, their axe, and their bow, because each of them had died in their adventurings. So we, of the Ulyain people, we realize now that weapons are made of steel. Weapons are made of metal. And while metal is strong, it makes us weak. Kova was the strongest of the 4 brothers, and he never lifted the sword, the axe, or the bow. Now, in order to honor each of his brothers, Dren and Viln and Selk, one of the villagers takes upon the burden of learning this tool and uses it all the days of their life for the village, so that we will never forget the beloved names of Kova's brothers. And at that point, the player characters now realize that when the villagers take this on, they actually use that as their name. They are known as the sword, the axe, and the bow. All of them are incredibly proficient with these weapons, okay? One other thing that they realize, too, is that these are very ancient weapons. They look simple. All of them look like exactly what they are, but each one of them, the axe never, its edge is always razor sharp, okay? And it is a full magical item, and get this, it gives advantage on all attacks, period. That's what it does, okay? The sword is exactly the same, always has a finely honed edge, razor sharp, okay? It looks like a regular sword, but it gives advantage on all attacks. And then the bow is a regular bow. It appears to be a regular bow. It gives advantage on all attacks, and the quiver always is equipped with regular arrows and magically produces a new arrow whenever an arrow is shot from it, okay? And it also, so now the player characters are also aware of why the villagers are like this. They're aware of adventures. They're aware of, swords and bows and axes and all types of regular tools, but they personally feel that it makes them weaker when they use it. And the player characters will notice that all the Ulyain are incredibly healthy. None of the player characters I've ever seen an Ulyain get sick. They really seem to have a very balanced and hardy lifestyle. And that is the sword, the axe, and the bow of the Ulyain people. Thank you.